right? Then we doing our part. There's so many people that get so they do stuff for money.
Mm-hmm.
So money is their motivator.
Mm-hmm.
And when money is your motivator, you can be bought.
Mm-hmm.
But when love is your motivator, it ain't enough money to buy the real love. You can only buy fake love with money.
That's a fact.
And that have a life limit to it. Ask any divorced athlete, NFL, NBA. Buying love, it's got a lifespan. When you buy love, it can only last for so long before it fall apart naturally because it's not true.
Shit, and that's why in 2025, the vast majority of relationships, they only last for 30 damn minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's built on, material order. That's why I keep telling people, man, if you don't have a mental connection, because the mental connection in itself, that's how you combat the negative forces right there. Neo, he wasn't able to escape the matrix until he had a divine feminine energy on his team. So it has to be a balance of energies. So that's why I keep telling people, man, like, that's the only way, to beat the system in itself is, going through.
He got a kicker since you brought Neo and Trinity up. She a female. They named her Trinity. But they named Neo, which is an anagram for one, an anagram for eon, the age. Mm. So in order for a Trinity to be Trinity, she got to be the rightful heir.
Right.
And now, what does she have to do in order to get her throne? She have to find her champion.
Mm-hmm.
So Big Mama got to find her son that's doing the work, that got all of the skills. Nobody's using them. He just sitting on the bench. She going to draft him to her team, and he going to start in the game. When you go in there and you tell him what you know.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So Morpheus, which is the dual name, Morpheus is the god of dreams. Orpheus is the god of dreams. Morpheus is the god of transformation.
Mm.
Morpheus is Orpheus with an M on the front. Orpheus can't be Morpheus without Mama because he can't get the M.
That's a fact.
So he can't go from Orpheus the dreamer to Morpheus the mystic without Mama saying, "Okay, baby, it's your turn. Get out there and do your thing." Then you go from Orpheus to Morpheus.
Because the M is actually a 3, but it also represents Trinity.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a 3 on his side. But the 3 is the M on his side, actually.
Yeah. So
because the M has always been the symbol for the mother, which is also the Masonic symbol of the apron. And we know that men don't wear aprons.
That's a fact. And you know what's crazy?
We know all these cross-dressing priests.
Man. And you know what's crazy though? I'm glad you brought up that 3 because at 3 it corresponds with the mind in itself, which is connected to the neocortex. So that you know what I'm saying? Like they throw all them damn symbols in that movie for a reason.
Well, you got 3 parts to the brain. You got the reptilian brain, the old mammal brain, and the new mammal brain.
Yep.
The new mammal brain is called what? The neocortex.
Yep.
The new cortex.
Mm.
And Neo is the one.
So that means you have to master your animalistic self.
Sako Mao, your monkey man.
Hey, you know what's crazy? What if you was looking, if the movie Matrix had an equation, it would actually be the pi equation, wouldn't it? 3.14, because 3, Trinity, 1 represents the life force that you have to resurrect it in order to tap into those, what they call the Ark of the Covenant, the pituitary, hypothalamus, pineal gland, tachyon energy. And then the 4 represents that balance, that foundation. So like I said, all of it, pretty much corresponds, but people just got to look at the numerical sequence and how it lines up with prophecy.
And to tie into what you just said, the 3.14 being pi, which is the man standing on his post. You can see the perimeters of the circle. Right?
Oh, okay.
And the 3 sisters flip, because the point means flip, one man in order to make a 4-corner shuffle. So the genetic equation is 3x flip 1y to 4x's. Somebody discovered an unknown variable. So the 4 represents the 4-corner shuffle, which is the genetic shuffle, the moving around of the DNA on the 4 corners of the X chromosome. The Y chromosome will fit in any one of them as an unknown variable until it's been activated as an X-Man.
And you know what's crazy? I'm glad you brought that up because that 4-corner shuffle can also correspond with the fire horse, which is the great purification symbol, which we're talking about the red horseman, because the 4 horsemen is a representation of the 4 basic elements, which corresponds with the 1. The 1 actually is a representation of the quintessence that collaborates with those 4 basic elements. So that's when you get the what we call the Christ energy. So I'm actually breaking it down, the numerical sequence of pi backwards, because it actually tells you the whole story. The 4 horsemen, the 1 that reaches the Trinity principle within the Christ energy within yourself, which is a form of mind science technology.
Okay, now let's take it to the streets and how it applies to the tribes.
Okay.
The 4 represents the Vice Lord Nation, whose original colors was black and gold. But when they alliance under the 5, they also wear red. Right? So it's the unification of the Peace Stone Nation and the Vice Lord Nation that comes across as the 4-corner shuffle or the 4-corner hustle.
Yeah.
Then you have the 4 horses of the apocalypse you brought up. Right? Which also is a whole other thing, because it started off with the white horse being where? You remember about 5 years ago where the white horse was at? In photographs?
Beyonce.
Nope, not Beyonce. You remember Lauren London and Nipsey Hussle?
Yep.
Where did the white horse end up at? They just gave it to the Pope.
Wow, okay.
Okay, now, everybody keep calling the white horse the pale horse, and they're not the same horse.
Exactly.
The pale horse carries death. But the one on the white horse, went about conquering and to conquer, and was given to power to conquer. Right? And then what did the black horse? Came with the scales in one hand and the food in the other hand, the wheats away. Right? So it's balance on one hand to feed the people on the other hand. Now the black horse comes back again at the end. It's only one of them that comes back at the end. Because while the other 3 horses, the red horse was given the power to start war and to wage war. That's Angel Bay, who just happened to be in the hospital right now. Everybody's saying positive energy. Chief Malik Angel Bay, Jeff Ford, who passed out at ADX and they rushed him to the hospital. We don't know anything about his condition. We're waiting to hear from either the Bureau of Prisons or his family to give us any updates. So we don't have no updates on him. And we're concerned because he ain't supposed to even be there. Political prisoner. He was the red horse. The blue horse, Lucifer, is not in the book. The question is why?
Yeah, why is that? Why? What's the word on that?
And so that means that the blue horse is something that came about after the Bible concepts was developed. So it came about as a different concept. The blue horse, if you got a red horse, the blue horse is going to automatically be next to it. That's Big Tookie, the blue horse, right? But the blue horse was put on ice. They froze Big Tookie in Area 51, right? So this is where the color blue, ice, Cricket Man walking lightning, the Shocker, Les Craven.
The 80s movie Shocker. My dad had me watching that shit. Man, my dad had me watching some crazy movies, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, so the shocker is Big Tookie is the shocker because everybody presumed that the government put him to death.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he becomes the shocker. The movie The Shocker was written by Wes Craven.
Mm-hmm.
It's a code there. Wes C. Raven. The Raven brings us to the Crow. Brandon Lee. You remember the Crow?
Yep.
Right. So the Raven is the actual bird that is calling the Crow in the movie The Crow.
Mm-hmm.
The Raven is the one who brings the message from the dead to the living, but also brings the one presumed to be dead back to life.
Mm.
So when you say the West, you're talking about it's a T missing. The T represents the cross, the sacrifice one.
Wow.
So who is missing? Big Tookie, because they sacrificed him. But they didn't really sacrifice him. They treated him like the Christ, like it say in the book of Barnabas and in the Quran. They thought they had slain him, but surely they slain him not, for it was only made to appear as if he was slain. We need to forget about that part.
How you that's what I'm trying to figure out. How'd you find that out? Like, that's crazy.
It's in the codes. It's in the tribal codes. Real talkers.
Yeah, I understand that because everybody can't do that. Like, because I don't know what that is, because that's something you cannot find in a book. And that's one of the mechanisms that's missing out of, you know what I'm saying, as far as like the conscious community when they want to, you know, cross over to certain information to, you know, just to be that anchor in that glitch. Because a lot of people, they will look over stuff like this because it's not inside of textbooks and all this other stuff, and it's not coinciding with, you know, the grassroots of, you know, consciousness. So a lot of people, how you did that I don't know what that's like I said, that's some ninth dimensional shit right there. So
the Wes Craven, who froze Tookie, who gave the order?
I think it was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, when Tookie came to California, when Schwarzenegger came to California to be a bodybuilder, he had to get the rub from Tookie.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a weightlifting contest and the pose down. And Tookie's response was, this vanilla gorilla walked right up to me for a seat at the table. So he said, I don't need you now, but I'm going to need you in the future. Mm-hmm. When I need you, you just got to perform. Right? Nobody know about this agreement between them. Because you couldn't perform in anything dealing with iron in California in that era, and you don't have the rub from Big Tookie. Mm. He either gave you a rub or a left bump. A left bump was hostile. I mean, he punched you in the mouth.
Mm.
The rub means that we had a friendly competition, and I acknowledge you now. Right? So, the reason we knew that Schwarzenegger was the one who put him on ice is because the next role after that Schwarzenegger got was Mr. Freeze on Batman.
Mm. Wow. And he played in Terminator 2, and Terminator, that's also, I think it begins in 2027, I believe.
Well, it goes back to 1984, if you remember. When he first meets Sarah Connor, he go back in time to 1984. Notice the year.
Oh, damn, that's crazy. Yo, hey, this is crazy. That's too many alignments, bro. I told you the answers is in the movies, man. I keep telling people that.
Okay, now somebody else was advocating for Big Tookie from the Red House.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to be flipped or tagged by Schwarzenegger. Mr. Freeze was smoking a cigar.
Yep.
Looking like a big blue Tookie. I mean, looking like a big blue Suge Knight sitting on his chair, the Death Row throne.
Mm-hmm.
The head, the face under the hood of Death Row Records is Big Tookie. Mm-hmm. The chief that woke up the Red House when he woke up the Blue House. So he carried the weight of both worlds on his shoulders.
Mm.
So now if the Blood Nation realized they was a federally recognized tribe, and most of us don't know that the Blood Nation is a federally recognized tribe, and they got some interlopers masquerading as them on the Blood tribe land in Canada.
Hey, you be cracking them codes, bro. I got that's where the codes be at in the damn.
Okay, now me and Elder did a show where we talked about West Coast tribes because we still use the epithet, right? That referred to what the tribe referred to the other tribe. Blood still called Crips crabs.
Yep.
If you find out the crabbing tribe from the area, you get the name of the actual tribe that was renamed Crips. The Crip was renamed because it's a community revolution in progress, right? And they was the ones looking inland. The Bloods was the ones looking to the sea. Brothers looking out on darkness. What happens after sunset when the sun finally drop over the horizon of the ocean on the West Coast? It get extra dark. So now you got your coastal tribes who's supposed to be guarding from the seaside in the red house, your red crab. And then you have your inland tribe that's supposed to be looking from inland at hostile tribes coming across the land. The reason why they was woke up was because of police brutality. The Panthers woke them up. They the ones injected the consciousness of resistance against a foreign occupying military force because we're supposed to be our own military. The government infiltrated all sets. We call them sets. They call them battalions. And then they turned them against each other. So now you got Marines fighting Rangers, Navy SEALs fighting paratroopers. And they're not supposed to be fighting each other. They're supposed to be fighting the enemy.
That's a fact.
But the enemy came across with the uniform systems that makes them look legitimate because they wear uniforms. Right? And then they put the code in the commercials. And they gave us the uniform commercial code. They trying to convince us the police are freeing.
Exactly.
And they keep killing us. And they don't tell you about the pale faces they kill like they tell you about the dark faces they kill. These people are foreign military. They don't care what your skin color is. They will blast your ass in the streets. Period. They foreign occupying force.
We're going to get into this young Big 13. He says, is there a connection between the blood moon of March 14th this year on Pi Day?
That's 3.14 blood moon. The blood moon is always representative of a menstrual moon, even though they be giving them other names like cherry moon, which is also symbolic of the yoni, breaking the virginity, breaking the cherry, right? Then they also got a couple other names. They give strawberry moon, which is when the woman's about to end her menstrual cycle and she's not bleeding as heavy and the red is lighter. All of it is tied back to the female. So 3.14 is pi and the moon is red on pi, right? So we're talking about a cherry pie, which is talking about an heir, right? We know that it's talking about an heir because when George Washington chopped down the cherry tree, that was that girl he raped. And they got the statue of George Washington and some lady dragging a little girl behind him. Over there, one of them East Coast states, Virginia, DC, somewhere over there. But it's a whole statue showing you who the cherry tree was. But it's always two cherries on the tree. They come in pairs. That's red house lingo. Right? So we go back to the rabbit. The rabbit is also another symbol of an heir. But when you call a rabbit an heir, you call him a hare.
Facts. That's crazy.
Now, I'm finna give you one for the before we get close to the end to look up.
Okay.
in the symbolism in the design and layout of DC, there's a dog sniffing a rabbit.
Want me to pull that up now?
Yeah.
All right, hold on.
DC dog sniff rabbit. It's right in the.
I answer a question while you looking for that. So, it says 33 and 1/3 of Masons learn what they. I mean, some people believe that they only have 3 degrees.
That's the Blue House, 3 degrees. Yeah. 32 degrees is the Red House, Scottish Rite. The 3 degrees is Inner Apprentice, Fellowcraft, Master Mason on the Blue House. Mm-hmm. When you got higher degrees, you got to switch over to the Red House. But the Blue House ain't supposed to enter the Red House unless you got a certain bloodline.
And that's where Donald Trump comes in. He playing both sides.
Yeah, because he's a Templar.
Damn, I had a slide in here about the Templars too. Man, something told me to put it in there because it coincides with the Baphomet. Because a lot of people don't understand where the inception of the Knights of Templars came from. A lot of them they came from Islamic background as far as like the veneration of Baphomet, or it comes from Baphomet. That's connected to the energy of the moon, what we call the sleep spell of Kingu, because I think the 5 power structures is connected to the 5-pointed star that shows you the sigil system over Washington D.C. The 5-pointed star, it represents the 5 power structures of the European Union.
Hold on, I think I might have it. Nope, that ain't it.
What was those of us whose mothers, Nana, favorite color of blue? I'm not sure what you mean by that one. Because I don't. What you think?
What about those of us whose mother's mother has a favorite color of blue? She's the daddy's girl. The blue girl, when they say a blue girl that's from the Blue House, she's a daddy's girl. Red House is the mama's girl.
Wow. Let me see.
And I can't find this picture.
Beta, do you think the powers that were casting hold on to the land? No, because I was talking about, as far as like you having a resurrection process of the mycelial network of nature, everything is getting activated. So I tell people all the time, our genetics is actually a microcosm of, what's taking place, politically, what's taking place neurologically, what's taking place on a geopolitical scale. So as far as like, the powers in itself, like what me and Rod talk about, the subjugation aspects of it, it goes into the silver key, which is the silver cord, which is the silver key in Freemasonry when you're talking about the keys of papacy, because that's the only way to unlock the liquid intelligence, which is the epigenetic memory, to unlock the Akashic records. So like I said, it's one of those things where the shadow work is going to be the catalyst to unlock the caps on the neurons in the brain to where you're able to pull information out from the subconscious mind. So a lot of people want their powers and shit like that, but you're not going to be able to tap into that energy unless you heal. They even show you in all the, the great majority of the superhero movies. They all go through that self-realization period, and then that's when they tap into their power.
I never had this hard return fan or something. And I know I got posted. I'm gonna find it and send it to you. You want to do an update?
Okay, I got you. Oh yeah, and now I not too long ago, it's probably like 2 videos ago, I was talking about Max B getting released from jail on 11/9. which is a mirror flip for 9/11. Now, only reason this coincides with like Leviathan and the Dragon because maybe about 2 months ago they had a 7.2 earthquake at the Arctic Peninsula in the Drake Passage. In the Drake Passage, Drake, the rapper, he's actually really good friends with French Montana, who is actually best friends with Max B. So if them two collab together, that's a ritual that's taking place at hand when you're talking about that Mountain Dew conspiracy, because the Mountain Dew conspiracy it shows you Liberty Chill, and it shows you the geomagnetic storm that's taking place on how the Statue of Liberty is underground and it's covered in ice and water. So like I said, Max B, he represents the wave, which is a form of a tsunami, and Drake is dropping an album called Iceman. So like I said, it's one of those things where I forgot to add the aspect of the dragon. They said that the reason why that they had an earthquake at the Drake Passage because they said that the head of Leviathan is in the Arctic region that's causing of what I call the El Nino non-weather, where you have the waters from the east collaborate with the waters from the west, which is a form of purification and judgment. So that's where you get into that Leviathan, because some people in the esoterics, they believe Leviathan is also the emulation of the black sun also.
The Leviathan force is also a military occupational force that have bases all around the world in what they call serpentine fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's called the Leviathan force, which is symbolized by the serpent wrapped around the egg. Remember that symbol?
Yeah.
Okay, now, Earth has what's called ley lines.
Mm-hmm.
Ley lines converge at what's called energy centers.
Mm-hmm.
We have always used the ley lines and the energy centers because we know that they go through cycles where this ley line might get the most energy for 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to build on this one for the next 1,000 years. After time that went by so much, we all over the place now because the ley lines have moved. Mm-hmm. But this energy current is called the Dragon's Path or the Dragon's Way.
Mm-hmm.
And it represents the movement of the Earth's energy around the planet. Right? When we saw earlier the connected Pacific, right? Where all those islands converge, that's a dragon path. All the way from the tip of South America, coming up the west side of South America, going into Mexico on the west coast, up to California, Oregon, and Washington into Alaska. That's a dragon line.
Mm-hmm.
And that dragon line is marked by volcanoes. This is why they get the name Dragon Line, Dragon Path, Dragon Way. Because normally when the energy moves through them, it generates volcanic activity. Even if they don't always erupt, but we know that the energy now is activated on this particular ley line or pathway.
Mm-hmm.
So when you see it come up, like the ring of fire in the northeast,
mm-hmm.
right? When that dragon wakes up, it sets off that ring of fire all the way around the North Atlantic going into Europe, back down going into North Africa, right? So these are dragon paths, as we call them. We use the term dragon. Anything that represents mastery is a dragon. Because you have to slay the dragon to master any topic. Mm-hmm. Right? So the one who's at the top seat, he is the dragon now.
Mm.
Right? He's the one speak with the fire of an open throat chakra and a synchronized root chakra. And if he really good, he have a full chakra activation from the root to the crown. And when he speaks with the dragon, it's more effective than waking more people up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those were your Nagas kings. When the culture changed, we went from being dragons to eagles and hawks. We went from being eagles and hawks to being elephants and lions. We had different things that represent mastery at different times. And the dragon came from the Nagas lines, who came from another energy signature tied to the Draco's constellation, where they actually was raising and trading and taming dragons.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that we call dinosaurs. The Inky bred dinosaurs for the Andromeda beings to hunt as part of a galactic treaty. And when they time ran up, what they do? Blew this motherfucker up all over. Nuclear winter, get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
But we still got dinosaurs. But we don't call them dinosaurs no more. We don't call them dragons no more. Now we call them crocodilians.
Komodo dragon.
Yep. Yep. And then you got mini dragons. They got one that's actually spits some stuff like fire in South America.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but he only had long, so we ain't scared of him.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't big enough to burn the building down.
It's like a little bird. It flies. It's like a little bird entity. Like,
it's a lizard.
Yeah, but it was able to. I think it had like wings or something.
I'm not sure. I don't remember. I haven't seen it. I haven't looked at it in a long time to give you all of the details. But I do know that it's there, and it do spit fire or fiery secretions from his mouth. They burn.
Mm-hmm. Hey, how you talked about that Iberian lynx that popped up?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it popped up the same day where 3-Eye Atlas was right behind the sun that created the Hyperion. And the Hyperion is what was the precursor to all those geomagnetic, storms and everything that was taking place as far as like, all these plasma vortexes opening up from the magnetosphere.
I was more taken back that it was an Iberian sphinx or lynx.
You said, excuse me?
I was more taken back that it was an Iberian lynx. The lynx is a North American cat.
Yeah, it was a white one that showed up the same day that the.
Where's the Iberian Peninsula at?
I'm not sure where they located it.
That's Spain.
Yeah, it was in Spain. Yes, it was. In Spain.
And that's why I said the lynx is normally a North American cat.
Okay.
And I've been trying to have some kind of like, where is this going with this? But I know they call ghost animals when they born out with albinism like that.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, it's so rare that when you see them, you know there's something spectacular going on spiritually. Like the white giraffes they had.
Mm-hmm.
The white buffalo.
Yeah, they say lucidic animals is also a representation of the end because it's the end of that biological entity's genetic format. So as far as like, you ever read the book? What is it called? Fuck, it's a Hebrew Israelite book, but it goes into like Levitical law and the book of Leviticus and how they talk about how leprosy in itself is a representation of the ending of a cycle. And when you see that takes place, when you're talking about like totem animals or whatever, it's a representation of the fact that the cosmic energy grid, the fifth dimension merging in with the third dimension of what we call new heaven and the new earth. So that it kind of goes into that. So they say when a lot of animals, albino animals pop up, a lot of times it's seen as an omen in indigenous cultures.
So what they describe is called genetic genetic deterioration.
Mm-hmm.
It's entropy in the genome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now over a period of time, the Earth, with Schumann resonance in the sun, has to reset the genetics of all of the species on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Certain animals is going to be upgraded, and then they're going to start taking on a human form. They won't be born to that species of animal anymore. They'll go extinct. But the spirit that was dwelling in that animal now is going to be upgraded to sentient being, and now they can take on the physiology of a human.
Mm-hmm.
This is all metaphysical folklore. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that the Earth has to upgrade our genetics. This is in too many ancient records. I know that it's done through the blast of the Schumann resonance up on the receipt of a major solar burst, a solar storm.
Great solar flash.
Right. So when you study in genetics and what causes genetics to suddenly change is blasts of radiation. It don't change on its own.
Mm-hmm.
They got to get this blast of radiation. Well, the program comes from scan the genome of all species, find all genetic defects. This is a mitochondrial function that only the women do.
Mm-hmm.
So every woman that ever gave birth to a defective child was doing so in order to record the anomaly for correction in later children. If there's nobody recording the anomaly, it can't get corrected because nobody know it exists.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as it becomes known to exist, she has a record in her biology of what the defect is and what caused it. So she'll be giving birth to children, or somebody in her family will be giving birth to children that has the genetic makeup or recovery program for that defect. And this is Y chromosome, this is X chromosome, both of the chromosomes are being scanned by mitochondria for defects. The majority of the defects comes from the Y chromosome having a deficient amount of genetic material to properly transfer a full genome script to the female that's receiving the child.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't straighten up as men, they got to correct us out of existence.
Mm-hmm.
And make us become real rare again. Because it used to be a time where men were rare. This is why polygamy came about. Men are more populous now on the earth than at any time in the history of the world. And it's going to be the correcting of the genome. When that blast come off from the Schumann resonance, that's the Atlas Shrugged.
Mm-hmm.
That's how she shake off the parasites.
I like how you put that. That's great. We're gonna get into one more question. Raz terms. He says, "What does Rod think about Benjamin Banneker?"
The easiest way to say it is traitor. But he can't be a traitor. He's a foreigner.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't come over here for us. He came over here for them.
Mm-hmm.
They give him a credit for writing the first almanac, but they didn't tell you how he got the information.
Right.
They didn't tell you that he was going across the land talking to the different chiefs to compile that almanac.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have the information. They did. He just asked them the questions and they gave him the answers and he compiled it. They also give him credit for building the first clock in America. He didn't build the first clock in America. What he did was he trapped us in a time block, in a time frame.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the informants that told them about how to use the blood magic to subjugate a large mass of people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I don't really have a lot to say about him. His fez is in the George Washington Masonic Memorial. Is one of the dirty Moors that came over here to take over.
That's a fact.
And if that ain't enough for you, then I don't know what it is, because you can go look in the George Washington Fez Memorial and you see Benjamin Banneker's fez in there when they took the fezes off the Moors and the moccasins off the chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Or what they call sandals.
That's in Philly, right?
It's in Virginia.
Okay. Yeah, I was about to say that's exactly where they stopped that penny circulation at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the penny is tied to the printing of the money, which was constitutionally given to Congress, and Congress ended up also been through the Treasury. Congress printing coin money, but then they contracted with the Federal Reserve out of the bankruptcy, the second bankruptcy, I think it was, that was before the 33 bankruptcy. The second bankruptcy was like 1901. But that's when they made the contract between the Federal Reserve and the U.S. Treasury that the Federal Reserve will print the fiat currency, and the U.S. Treasury will just hold on to assets. This is like a repository of tribal assets. The Treasury has never been used in the history of America to finance any government. It's just been collecting money. But everything has been being done through the legal fiction in the Federal Reserve System for the foreigners, using their monopoly money in the place of our real money.
I see you yawning and stuff. Make sure that, Master Tudor, what I'm saying, get his rest. But he says, Rod and Bill, what is your take on the Honorable Minister Farrakhan meeting with the FOI Black Men Only yesterday at Moscow Maran in Chicago?
He's preparing for something. Minister don't just haphazardly call meetings. And I would need to know more because I'm surprised I'm just not hearing about it. But when he called that meeting, did he call all of the ministers, or did he just only call the FOI and the commanders? It depends. If he only called the military, that means they finna start getting prepared for something real big. If he called the ministers, then he was informing them on the direction that the messages need to take for the next however many months till he called the next meeting.
And you know what's crazy? Because I just recently heard that my girl, she had said something about the SWAT is preparing for something big.
The who is?
SWAT. She knows somebody. As far as like through her yoga stuff, somebody had mentioned something about SWAT is supposed to be, they're preparing for something.
Spell that.
SWAT.
Oh, SWAT. In what city?
Yeah. SWAT. The SWAT team, they're preparing for something. She I think the woman's her young boy, he works out of town in big city and he works for SWAT. And she said that they like preparing for something.
Remember I told you. Everybody that's like SWAT teams are probably going to be commandeered by National Guard because they got specialists there. And they could be using to take the police out. Like the SWAT is like a local militia, and they normally be manned by active law enforcement from different fields based on specialty. Right. So when the National Guard is on alert, SWAT has to be on alert. Period. The only way they don't be on alert if they are police and there's no sheriff deputies on there, there's no alternative law enforcement on there. Then they gonna be considered as a foreign military occupying the land. But if they have other law enforcement in their SWAT team, then that way they will be able to be absorbed into a functional legal law enforcement community. We don't need all this shit. We don't need this shit because people over here keeping us broke, keeping us struggling, keeping us suffering. We didn't used to need prisons.
Facts.
You pay for your dirt on the spot right now. You didn't all that don't lock you up for 5-10 years. No, he gonna pay for his dirt. If you were stealing, you gonna work for free.
Facts.
Until the debt is paid off. And the debt gotta be reasonable based on the crime. You can't let a person work 50 years for a candy bar. Right. It's not gonna happen.
Exactly.
But that's the kind of stuff they was doing to us in order to the 14th Amendment is the biggest illusion that was ever played on us.
Yep, fraudulent contract never ratified.
Not only that, they got two kind of citizens in there, which is contradictory to each other. And it gives an excuse to the slaveholders to hold slaves. Buy you a plot of land, build you a private prison, and we'll keep you full. with all the slaves you can muster. We didn't need that. We didn't need none of that.
Mm-hmm.
The remedy for the crime is solved real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Start seeing people walking around with no hands for stealing, you understand why stealing stopped.
Right. That's a fact.
When you see grown men walking around as eunuchs, then you're going to see sexual assault stop.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. But now, in this era, you can't eat half the stuff they call sexual assault, not sexual assault.
Mm-hmm. Salute to Tommy in the chat. Salute to Tommy. Salute to Tommy Truthful. But yeah, man.
The ones before us did, they left some kind of code in it for us to put this shit together at the end. The 313 was a code. It was called an area code. The area code is the telephone code to the city or suburb that you live in. Right? So it's attached to a phone number, which is called a direct line. So the area code takes you to the area, and then the phone number takes you to a direct line in the area that the code access is open to.
Mm-hmm.
The 313 is the 7, because 3 plus 1 plus 3 is 7.
Okay.
G is the 7th letter made. Right? Gomer, wisdom, geometry, geology, right? God, generator, operator, destroyer, metaphysics, right? So now we talking, what's the other name? Man, his name eludes me. But he was the old Moore that used to tell us all the metaphysical information. Something ill.
I
You know what I'm talking about.
Talking about the one with the glass.
Yeah. I can't think of the brother name right now. It eludes me.
Yeah, I know exactly you talking about. Chakra, going to the chakra.
Mm-hmm. So he give us the metaphysics to the operating of the words that ties back into the translation of the numbers. The numbers is going to tell you the code sequence, and then the letter is going to tell you the spelling of the message. So you got every letter has a corresponding number in the correspond. C. Freeman Hill, that's the one I was talking about. Yep.
Yeah, that's him. Mm-hmm.
So the understanding of the Morse things, if you take the dogma out, you got something called Moore's Zodiac Constitution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the literature from the Moorish Order of the Round Table, right? Mm-hmm. Then you got CMB, Charles Mosley Bay, Clock of Destiny, C. Freeman Hill on metaphysics, and then you got Hakeem Bey on the indigenous connection to the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you know what they telling you, because remember, it's just as much in the message that's not being said as it is in what's being said. They call that reading between the lines. You know, so all of these things translate. So when you go in Circle 7 in the 313, 313 reveals Detroit. Detroit is a French word that means straight. Right? Straight is a common name given to a short stretch of waterway that leads to another waterway. They call it a strait. So the strait, which is Detroit, because we call it Detroit, but the French pronunciation is Detroit. Detroit, Trois is a reference to the Pygmy tribes, but it's also a number in French, right? Trois means 3. So then you got the D in front of it, Detroit. which means the third. Masonic message code is called the third degree. It's a Q&A to the public without restriction of who asks the question. They call that grilling you. But the grill is reference to putting you on a barbecue grill. Cook your ass with these questions. And then when you have somebody come in on the left bump, they call that peppering you from the pews. Right? It's like they used to throw tomatoes at the minstrels. Now, the Smashed Tomato is a movie rating site. Right? So when everything being connected, you travel through the stream of thought until you get to the destination. Where else do we see the Circle 7? The nation of gods and earths. Right? The 7 is the sun, right? The crescent is the woman, which is actually the earth. Right? So they show you in the Circle 7, in the 5% nation symbolism, the sun with the crescent, and then they show you the mother living over the sun. Right? Mama's son is my son, Mason. And we was crossing the Mason and Dixie line. And down in Dixie in the land of cotton. So we crossing the Mason-Dixon land from north to south, meaning we traversing from one governing tribe to another governing tribe. We moving from Cherokee Confederacy to Iroquois Confederacy. So you got two different tribal documents grandfathered in at the fall of America based on the Mason-Dixon line.
Now, because the reason why I was saying it, because I was thinking about Martin Lawrence. I don't know if it was like shot in Detroit, but the theme of the sitcom is centered around Detroit, right? Then you got like Big Meech, like it's a lot of things then dealing with Chicago, right? Dealing with Chicago in connection with Detroit. That's another connection. But let me roll some of these clips, and then we can get into the nitty gritty.
Corrected. One is the drug trade didn't just affect us, but we was the primary target. It devastated so-called white America too. Right? So we got to remember that part. The other thing that he mentioned is the oral traditions on the west coast of Africa does not support the slave narrative.
Right.
Okay, now, what the oral tradition of the West Africans is we didn't come from over there, they came from over here.
Right.
Right, and it's a lot of oral traditions, tribal oral traditions that said they came across the great waters to the west.
Right.
Right, so the out of Africa theory, you got to remember, is contingent on your center of education being Europe.
Right.
Right. He said one more thing
about he said about the ships.
Yeah, the ships. So also, they found Viking ships from the contemporary time frame as the so-called slave ship. Matter of fact, they might even be older than the so-called slave ships, and they still haven't produced an intact slave ship yet. No shipwreck has been discovered of a slave ship. Now remember, they said certain amount of ships was never making it to the destination. They was missing at sea. So you should have at least one shipwreck with the bones of Africans that was being brought over here. At least one.
Right.
In the course of the so-called 300 years that this was supposed to be taking place. Now, when you understand, going back to the First Lady, the whole thing is a spin you around, get you dizzy, and then take the blindfold off and see if you know where you at. If they disassociate us from the land successfully and we believe we from somewhere else, you forego your birthright to your tribal heritage and your tribal inheritance. Right? So that's why they want us to believe that we all came from Africa. The people behind us want us to teach everybody that the United States is Africa. United States is not Africa. It's Atlantis. Right? And
Right.
they don't want us to, like, for instance, somebody sent me a thing today about, it's one of my posts, somebody tagged me in and said, it was AI generated Morocco, California, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was saying before it was Beverly Hills, it was called Morocco, right? All of these cities with Bible names, none of those cities was called that before 1492. All of those charters that named those cities is post 1492. So when we see biblical references, we trying to attach to the chosen people of God. We the chosen people of God because we the chosen people of this land,
That's right.
which is the chosen people of the matriarchy or the mothers. Right? We only chose because the land chose us, because it produced us to be the caretakers. We are the antibodies.
That's right.
And the people that came is the virus.
That's right.
They suck blood. We wear wolves. Come on now. They say we look like kin, so they called us lichens. But we ain't them and they ain't us. We just look alike. Right? But we don't even really look alike. We just got the same skin pigment levels and the same hair textures, but we don't really look alike phenotypically.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, one of us is from the land because we all got certain characteristics that's common to the tribes of the land. Mm-hmm. As they were being described during the whole invasion process, the first part of the invasion from 1492 to 1776. During that time, we wasn't encountering no pale faces.
That's right.
We was fighting Mongolians, Huns, and niggas. So if this is who we was up against, then how all of a sudden we end up fighting pale faces? Right? They had to make a classification in law called free white persons, but the description of that classification does not support the narrative of the skin color. So therefore, it must mean something else. In European, royals is called white people, no matter what their skin color is. Let that sink in. Roll the coin, brother.
Carlos Linnaeus is a dude that you might want to go look up. He was the one that was instrumental in creating the black sociality, the white paradigm, and then they in 1790 during the National Act, them kidnapping us from over here and shipping us to other places.
Yeah, so that's called the intra-American slave trade. You can look it up, and it'll show you ship routes and it'll show you land routes by which we was traded domestically. Mm-hmm. It's also called the domestic slave trade. Mm-hmm. Right? So you can see when they was taking people from New York to the islands, they was taken from New York to Louisiana, taken from Louisiana to the Carolinas. All that can be looked up under the intra-American slave trade or the domestic American slave trade. And it's like mind-blowing when you understand that it was more domestic trading in humans than it was over the seas trading of humans. And that's the same. Just like they got those ledgers talking about who left Africa. Mm-hmm. They got ledgers about who they took from one part of the land to the other. They have to keep track of us.
Right.
They've been keeping track of us the whole time. We just didn't know it.
Right. Hey, Rod. So I read something where they said that they were enslaving the natives in the South and then sending them north west. So like if they were from Florida, they'd capture them and send them to Seattle, like later after they captured most of the land. But they were sending they was disorienting you by sending you to another part of the land, even though a lot of them, go ahead.
So a lot of that was done with children more than adults.
Okay.
When they capture the adults, they normally either put them in what's called isolated bondage, separate from the youth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's how they cut us off from our true oral traditions.
Mm-hmm.
And once they shut you off from the youth, they send in the youth to around people that speak different tribal languages than the tribe that he originally from. So he looked like an outsider to them. Right?
Right.
And a lot of people didn't even catch their roots when Kunta Kinte was telling Fiddler about being from Africa. And Fiddler was like, well, we don't know nothing about no Africans.
Right.
Because he was telling you that they was domestically in bondage. Right? That was part of the war effort of what they called the Seven Nation War. Right? But when the British and the French begin to win the war, the Russians is the ones who gave us aid on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
But originally they was coming to colonize the Americas too.
Mm-hmm.
They stopped in Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now you got Russia then took Alaska, the Spanish, which had the biggest sea fleet at the time, they took on what's called a multilateral attack on the land.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when you look at the where Alcatraz at, you used to be coming across the ocean and you could see the castle before you see the land.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked it like it was just a castle on water until you got close to it and you seen it was on the island.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got the Spanish coming around South America. Then you got the French and the Spanish both attacking us in the Gulf. You got the Dutch, the Portuguese, and the English or British attacking us in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we got to fight all these wars on multiple fronts.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're attacking the islanders, so we gotta support that war effort just as well.
Mm-hmm.
So now the islanders is fighting these people, the mainland north and the mainland south is fighting these people. We've been fighting them for 500 years. They have us believing that we just laid down when they came. That's just further from the truth.
Right.
The word similarly is the word that's from the Spanish that means runaway. Seminoles is a whole nother word. It's French. Semi mean half. Nolis with the reference to the tribes over here. Right. So it was calling us mixed tribes because we had somebody from every tribe. So the French was calling us Seminoles, whereas the Spanish was calling us Cimarron,
mm-hmm.
the runaways, right? Mm-hmm. But the runway or the runaway is really a reference to the ones that traveled the waterway, but we thinking they talking about somebody that didn't escape the plantation because of the rewrite of history. Right? Because the ones who traveled the waterways, that was the runaways or runway, the same as a model walker runway. And it was for a short stretch of straight land, right? They had a river run through it, and then you can attack them from both sides. We knew the waterways. You can tell who's telling the story by the word that they use. When they call it the Gullah Wars, we telling the story. When they call it the Seminole Wars, the colonizer telling the story. We knew who we was. And they knew who they was trying to rebrand us as. Remember, they came over for a drop of blood. What did the brother say you need to prove that you're part of a tribe?
Negro blood.
Negro blood. Great melting pot. Will one drop of blood from us make you one of us? That was the whole gimmick to begin with. That was the trick, because they knew the law of the land. If we adopt a foreigner and raise him, we have to have a suitable mate for him. So they got to marry into a family. They just can't be sitting on the land.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be tied to the van. The van is the old Mississippians. the van to the root. Or corner. Now, if you notice how they've been in close proximity for 100 and some years,
Right.
you think they kids ain't married each other?
Right.
Now, the culture, they not telling you the reason why they together. Remember, I told you in the Trail of Tears, they used to be telling the people in the South the Indian train coming.
Yeah.
And they be like, I'm not getting on that.
Yeah.
And then they reclassified them as Negro. Well, some of us left and went with the ones that was being trained in the boarding schools, the Indian training schools.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they mixed us together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why those two tribes lived in close proximity because the Mongolians took sides with us.
Mm-hmm.
So they got pushed on the reservation with us. The ones who didn't take sides with us, you can look at them and see they Huns and Mongolians. And then they get special treatment from the government that these other tribes don't get on these other reservations.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell by the reservations who the tribe on the reservation took sides with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The reservations that don't got nobody that look like us on it, them the ones took sides with the government, especially if they live in lavish. Right? Then you got the ones